Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Before we begin tonight's story, if you enjoy romantic tales to fall asleep to, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep making more cozy stories for you. And in the comments, I'd love to know where in the world are you listening from and what time is it for you right now. Now, let yourself unwind. Tonight's story is set in Victorian London, where one quiet woman dances alone each evening in a candlelit attic. Until one night, a man hears the music too. This is the lady who danced alone. Let's begin. The city exhales a soft, silvery fog as you step out into the night. London's lamps glow like candle flames caught in glass, their light blurred at the edges, flickering gently as if unsure whether to hold fast or fade away. Your boots press into the damp cobblestones with quiet certainty. Click, press, step, repeat. You know this walk by heart. From the workroom above the dress shop on Holborn Lane, down the edge of Fleet Street, past the place where the carriages wait in rows, to your quiet corner of the world. You wrap your shawl a little tighter. The fog wraps tighter too. All around you, the city pulses in murmurs. A street seller's cart rattles over uneven stones. A man in a stovepipe hat hums tunelessly as he passes, his coat swinging with purpose. Somewhere nearby, a child laughs sudden and sharp, then is gone, and in the upper windows of buildings that touch the sky, warm yellow lights glow like tiny stages. You glance toward one of those windows, the same one as always. It belongs to the Westbourne Assembly Hall. You've never been inside, but you pass it nearly every evening, and through the condensation-frosted panes you glimpse movement-gloved hands, swaying skirts, velvet shoes gliding over polished floors. Music, muffled by glass and distance, floats into the night in ghostly fragments. Waltz time, always, the kind of music meant to wrap around two people at once. You've never minded being alone, or at least you've learned not to. There are things you treasure in your solitude, the sound of your own thoughts, the rhythm of your hands sewing stitches into silk, the way you move freely through your own space at the end of the day, no one to ask questions or fill the silence with their own needs. You have your work, your books, your candlelight, and that has always been enough. Mostly. But still you linger, just a moment, watching the dancers blur and twirl behind fogged glass like ghosts caught in a snow globe. You let your eyes soften. You imagine you are one of them. Not the star of the evening, perhaps, but there, in the room, moving in time with someone who chooses to stay close. You feel the soft ache of it, unspoken, uncomplicated. You let it pass. You turn the corner, boots quiet now on softer ground. Past the newspaper stand, past the closed pie shop with its flaky smells still clinging to the window panes, past the church that chimes 7 o'clock and no more. Your street is narrow, sloping. The lamp on the corner sputters, then steadies, as if waking from a long blink. And then there it is, the door with the peeling blue paint. You climb the narrow stairwell, hand trailing the worn wooden rail. Up 2 flights, past the man who always snores by 8, past the woman with the twin cats who watch you through the balusters like little sentries. You reach the attic, turn the key, step inside. Your room welcomes you with its familiar hush. It's not much, just enough for one, but everything in it is yours. The thick red curtain you found in a market stall and hung as a room divider, the chipped mirror propped beside the wardrobe, the tea kettle that hums a little tune when it's just about to boil, the floorboards that sigh when you walk from the bed to the window and back again, and in the center of it all space, just enough of it to move. You light a single candle, pull your hair from its pins, Slip off your boots and place them side by side. You untie the apron, fold it neatly, place it on the chair, and then you do what you always do. You take a breath, press play on a memory, and begin to dance. It isn't a dance anyone taught you. It's yours. A slow waltz of the body, remembering what it's never had. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. A turn, a step, a sweep. Your skirt lifts slightly with each twirl, brushing your ankles, whispering its own kind of secret. You close your eyes, let the shadows do as they will. In your mind there's music, a violin perhaps, maybe a piano, distant and dreamy. But when you open your eyes and catch sight of your reflection in the mirror, it's just you, and the attic, and the candlelight, and the silent rhythm that lives in your chest. You tell yourself you don't long for someone to see, that you're not waiting for anyone to find you here, that this dance is only for you. But still, when you pause to catch your breath, you walk to the window and peer down at the street. Empty, as always. And so you step away, letting the curtain fall back into place, and you dance a little longer. Alone. Tonight, the candle burns lower than usual. You've danced for longer than you meant to, lost in your own rhythm, your own quiet world. The city outside has quieted to a hush, a lullaby of distant hoofbeats and the soft metallic clatter of someone closing up a gate. The kettle has gone cold. Your hands are warm from motion, but your feet ache. Not in a painful way, in the way that says you were alive just now. You lower yourself to the edge of the bed. It groans softly beneath your weight. You reach down and rub your ankle, then lean forward, catching sight of your reflection again in the mirror across the room. You don't startle. You've been meeting her gaze most of your life, the version of yourself that lives in that mirror. Some nights she looks elegant and high, eyes certain, lips touched with some unspoken joy. Other nights, like now, she looks softened. Not sad, exactly. Not tired, just quiet. You tilt your head and study her. You wonder what she would look like, dancing with someone else. That thought stirs something inside you. You don't touch it, not yet. You rise and move slowly to the window, brushing aside the curtain just an inch with your fingertips. You look down at the street, not expecting, not hoping, just looking. And then, a shape, a movement, a man passing below. You catch only a glimpse at all, wrapped in a long coat, a case slung over his back. A musician's case, a violin perhaps. You pull back instinctively. He's not looking up, he's simply walking. But something about him, his posture, the way his hand rests over the case's spine like it's a trusted companion, makes your pulse jump just a little. He disappears around the corner, and then there's nothing but fog again. Still, the image of him lingers. You tell yourself not to invent anything from it, not to imagine stories that don't exist, but even as you lie down beneath the quilt, the image of him crossing that stretch of street stays behind your eyes. The violin, the walk, the time of night. You close your eyes. Sleep doesn't come quickly, but the warmth of movement remains in your limbs, and eventually your breathing slows, and you dream, though you won't remember what of. The next morning is wrapped in the scent of starch and the sound of scissors. Work, always. The shop is brisk and busy. The head seamstress clicks her tongue at crooked seams. The owner shuffles in, leaves again, shuffles back, bringing tea she never offers to anyone but herself. The other girls speak in whispers when they think you're not listening. You never mind being quiet. People say strange things in silence. It reveals more than noise ever does. Still, by afternoon, your fingers are sore from thread and your back aches from hunching, and you find yourself lingering longer than necessary by the front window of the shop, trimming a hem, smoothing a bodice. You're not looking for anything, not watching. But when a man walks past stall, a violin case over his back, you do notice, and for a moment you feel caught, not because he looks at you, he doesn't, but because you recognize the line of his shoulders. It's him, the same man from the night before. He pauses by the music shop 2 doors down, nods to the old man inside, disappears inside. Your hands tremble slightly as you fold the muslin back over the counter. That evening, you walk slower than usual. You pass the music shop on your way home. It's closed now, the shutters pulled halfway, light flickering beneath the door. You hear the faintest strains of violin, warm, coaxing notes, not performed but played, a melody with nowhere to go, meant for no one in particular. You don't stop, but you do slow, and you wonder if music can recognize a longing in someone who's never said a word. Back in your attic, you don't dance right away. You sit, you listen to the kettle hum, you set out a cup for tea but forget to drink it. You light your candle, but its glow feels different tonight. It flickers toward the mirror, casting long shapes on the floorboards. When you finally rise and begin to move, it's gentler. Not sadder, just more curious, more aware. You turn, and this time, when you catch sight of yourself in the mirror, you don't just see a woman dancing, you see a question, a possibility, someone still in motion, not finished becoming. You move toward the mirror, slowly, carefully, the hem of your skirt dragging lightly against the floor. Your breath is audible in the quiet. You reach out, not to touch it, just to hover your hand near the glass. And for one strange, still moment, you almost expect someone else's hand to reach out and meet yours from the other side. 2 nights later, it happens again. You are dancing. The candle is burning low, as it always does. You're moving gently, lost in the motion, when something shifts in the air. You pause. Not a sound. Not quite. But a sensation like your senses waking up all at once. You cross to the window, and there he is, standing just beneath the flickering lamp on the corner, holding his violin, not playing, just standing, looking up at your window. You don't move, you don't breathe. And then he lifts the violin to his shoulder and begins to play, slow, tender, a song not drawn from sheet music, but from something deeper, something honest. The notes reach upward and settle into your chest like dust. You don't think. You simply step back into the middle of your room, turn once, and begin to dance. This time, not for yourself. Not quite. You don't know if he can see you. You don't know if you want him to. But you dance and he plays. And somewhere between the fog and the candlelight, a thread begins to stitch the space between you. You don't speak. Not that night, not the next. But he returns. Sometimes he plays. Sometimes he just walks by, slow enough that you can't mistake it for accident. And slowly, your mirror changes. You still dance alone. But now, the woman in the mirror looks different. Like she knows someone is watching. Like she's been seen. And every evening, as the city hums itself to sleep, you move to the music he gives you. And for the first time in a very long time, you no longer feel like a ghost moving in an empty house. You feel like a secret waiting to be told. And he plays like he's the one waiting to hear it. You begin to notice the music even when it isn't there. In the quiet hours of morning, as the kettle simmers on the stove, in the hush of the shop, while your needle moves through silk in steady, practiced rhythm. In the soft clicking of the scissors, in the faint rustle of skirts across the wooden floors, there's a thread of melody lingering in your thoughts, now like something he left behind in the air itself. You don't know his name. You've seen him no more than a handful of times, and never closer than the curve of the street or the frame of your window, but he plays like he knows you, like he's telling you something you've never quite heard before, and it stays with you. One afternoon, as you're delivering finished garments to the main floor, the shopkeeper snaps her fingers in your direction. "The music shop down the lane sent word," she says without looking up. "Something's ready for pickup, a length of custom lace trim for a piano cover. You'll go fetch it." You nod. You don't ask why it's coming from a music shop. You don't ask anything at all. Instead, you wrap your shawl, steady your breath, and head down the street. The music shop is narrow and old, the kind of place you might have passed a dozen times and never noticed its windows shadowed by curled sheet music, its name faded into the dark wood of the doorframe. Inside, it smells of varnish and old parchment. The air is warmer than you expected, filled with the quiet hush of instruments at rest, rows of violins, their necks lined like sentries. A cello in the corner, gleaming softly in the light. A stack of bound scores worn at the edges, as if touched too often by hands that couldn't stay away. You step in softly, your shoes barely making a sound. A bell above the door chimes once clear and bright, and he looks up. He's there, behind the counter. The man from the street, the man with the violin. Up close, he looks exactly like he should, and nothing like you imagined. His coat is neatly folded over the chair, his shirt sleeves are rolled to the elbow, revealing pale forearms speckled faintly with ink. His hands are long, musician's hands, the knuckles marked by use. He has dark hair that curls slightly at the collar, and a face that looks as though it's used to being still, like he listens more than he speaks. His eyes meet yours. Not with surprise, not quite with recognition, but with something aware. You blink, unsure whether to speak. Before you can gather the words, he smiles just a little, a flicker more than a formality, and gestures toward the back counter. "You're from the dressmakers, aren't you?" he asks. His voice is low, unhurried. "The lace arrived this morning. I believe it's for a piano shawl?" You nod. "Yes," you say softly. "That's right." He disappears through a curtain, and you breathe again. When he returns, he sets a small box on the counter and opens it with care. Inside, the lace rests like a coiled ribbon of snow, delicate and fine, each loop and flourish like the trace of a melody you've never heard aloud. "I'd almost forgotten how beautiful this work is," he says, not quite looking at you. "My mother used to embroider by the window. I always thought lace looked like music frozen in thread." You're caught off guard by the way he says it, not performative, not clever, just true. "It's what I do," you say a little shyly. "The lace, I stitched that." This time, he does look at you. "I thought as much." You feel a flutter behind your ribs, like a note struck just once, perfectly clear. He closes the box gently, ties the ribbon around it himself. "Would you like to come in sometime?" he asks as he finishes the knot. Your breath catches. He glances up, his tone still easy. "To see the instruments," he adds quickly. "Or just, listen. I often play in the mornings. The door's usually open." You nod, perhaps too quickly. "Yes," you manage. "I'd like that." He hands you the box with both hands. Your fingers brush his just slightly, and in that moment, nothing else exists. Just the warmth of his skin, the scent of old wood and varnish, and the soft light that spills through the shop window, pooling like golden silence between you. You step back into the street. The fog is just beginning to roll in again, curling around the corners of the buildings like it always does, but somehow the air feels different, lighter. The box in your hands feels warm, and for the rest of the day, you walk like you're carrying a secret, not a heavy one, a delicate one, a thread of music wrapped in lace. That night, the music does not come. You wait at the window for longer than usual, scanning the mist below, your breath fogging the glass, but he doesn't appear. No violin, no footsteps. You tell yourself not to mind. He's probably working late, or busy, or simply didn't come by. but the room feels stiller without the sound. You don't dance that night. Instead, you sit by the mirror and run your fingers along the edge of your shawl, thinking of frozen music and the way he said it like it had always been true. The next morning, you pass the shop on your way to work. The door is open. You don't go in, not yet, but you hear it, the sound of the violin, faint, graceful, purposeful. It winds through the cold air like steam from a teacup, rising until it reaches you and tugs at something you can't quite name. You walk a little slower. You smile, just slightly, to yourself. And later, as you press a hem flat across the counter, one of the other girls says, "You look like someone who's had a lovely morning." You don't reply. But inside, something warm flickers quietly to life. It begins with a note. You don't know how long he's been standing there, only that the first sound reaches you like a breath against your skin. You freeze in the middle of folding your nightdress. Candlelight spills over your hands. The air has shifted. There's music outside. You cross to the window, careful not to let your foot catch the edge of the rug, careful not to breathe too loud, too fast. You don't want to chase it away. You lift the curtain slowly, inch by inch, and there he is, standing in the alley just below your window, tucked in the narrow space between the buildings, like a secret kept between bricks and fog. He's not looking up. He doesn't need to. He lifts the violin beneath his chin and plays. The sound is quiet, barely louder than the hush of your own breath, but it carries. It curls around the lamppost, drifts up to your windowsill, wraps around your ankles and wrists and neck like invisible thread. The notes are simple, sparse, a melody unfolding one heartbeat at a time. You don't recognize the tune, but you know it's meant for you. You step away from the window slowly, quietly. You don't want him to see you, not yet. You don't want to break the spell. The room feels different with music inside it, like everything is listening. Even the mirror. You move to the center of the floor, brush your palms down your sides, and let yourself begin. It's not the dance you always do. It's softer, more hesitant, as if your body is asking permission to be seen, to be part of something it's never known but always imagined. You turn once, twice. You let your feet follow the rhythm he sends upward like a rope to climb. There's no rush. The music waits for you. And in that attic, with candlelight flickering against the walls and shadows whispering at the corners, you are not alone. After a while, the music fades. You hear the last note stretch, then still. You move back to the window, but he's already gone. The street is quiet again, the fog thicker now, curling around the base of the lamppost like sleep itself. You don't feel disappointed, only full, as if someone has drawn a curtain back inside your chest, letting light into a room you'd forgotten was there. The next night, he returns. And this time, you don't hide. You open the window before he begins. Let the cold air in. Let the music meet you with no barriers. He plays. You dance. And when it ends just before he turns to go, he glances up. Your eyes meet. Not long. Not deeply. Just enough to know. He sees you. The days blur gently together, each one colored by the anticipation of evening. You go to work as always. You stitch, you press seams, you wrap ribbons around tiny paper cards. You nod politely at the shop girls, sip your tea, and listen to the world as it goes on. But something inside you pulses quietly, something soft and golden and wholly yours. In the afternoons, you walk a little slower past the music shop. Sometimes he's there, behind the counter, sometimes not, but you never go in again. Not yet. Somehow, the silence between you is part of the music now. One night, he doesn't come. You wait longer than usual. You light a second candle, then a third. You dance a little, half-hearted. It doesn't feel the same. You tell yourself it's nothing, that you don't need him here to dance. But still, the room feels emptier. Not like before you knew he existed. but like the space he left behind hasn't forgotten its shape. You sit by the window long after the candles burn low, and just when you think he's truly not coming, there's a sound, not a note, not music, a knock, soft, timid, at the back entrance to your building. Your heart stumbles. You throw a shawl around your shoulders, pad down the stairs, barely feeling your own feet. When you open the door, he's standing there, not quite smiling, not speaking, just holding his violin case in one hand, the other tucked into his coat pocket. "I wasn't sure if I should," he says, his voice gentle, eyes unsure, "but I wanted to know if you were still dancing." You open the door wider. "I was waiting," you say. He doesn't come inside. He stands in the alley, just like before. You return to your attic and open the window wide. And for the first time, you speak before he plays. "Will you play something you wrote?" you call down. He nods, doesn't speak. He lifts the bow and begins. This melody is different. It's fuller, more certain. It rises and falls like breath, carries the sound of footsteps over fallen leaves, of glances across quiet rooms, of the way a hand might hover close to another but never quite touch. It's longing and restraint, and the kind of joy that blooms too slowly to startle. And this time, you don't just dance. You smile. You laugh just once, softly, as your skirt catches the air like a bell swinging in a church tower. And below, when he hears it, he plays faster, brighter. You think, this is how two people fall in love in silence. Not with declarations, not with flowers or poems or promises, but with music and windows and quiet nights shared across nothing but air and trust. When the song ends, you stay by the window. He lingers in the alley. For the first time, you both speak at once. "Good night," you say. "Good night," he says. And somehow, the word lands in your chest like a kiss pressed to your collarbone. That night, you dream you're standing in the music shop. But it's empty. No shelves, no instruments. Just you and him and the mirror from your attic, placed in the center of the room. You look into it and you're not dancing alone. The weather turns soft. Not warm London in spring is never quite that kind, but less sharp, less gray. The fog is still there, especially in the early mornings, rising from the river in pale blue wisps. But the chill no longer bites so hard. The cobblestones glisten more often with rain than frost, and when the breeze stirs, it carries the scent of wet earth and smoke, and something faintly sweet, like violets crushed beneath carriage wheels. You walk with your shawl loose now, no gloves. You let your hands feel the cool air and the slight coarseness of brick walls as you pass them. You walk differently, too less quickly, less tightly wound. There's a looseness in your shoulders, a softness in your step. You don't always go home directly. Sometimes you walk to the river. The Thames has never been beautiful in the way postcards claim Paris or Vienna are, but it has its own rhythm, its own quiet honesty. It's wide and deep and slow, like time itself is passing through the center of the city. On some days it gleams silver, on others brown and quiet, but always it feels like something steady, something that sees everything and never tells a soul. The first time he joins you, you're not expecting it. You're leaning against the railing along the embankment, watching the lamplight reflect in wavering lines across the water, when he appears beside you not suddenly, but gently, as if the space had always been his, and you've only just noticed. He doesn't say hello. He just stands there, hands in the pockets of his coat, eyes on the river. You don't speak either, but you don't leave. The two of you stand there as the city exhales around you, faint whistles of steamboats in the distance, the rattle of carriages on the bridge, footsteps hurrying somewhere behind. He leans a little closer, not enough to touch you, not quite, but enough that you feel it, his presence, steady and quiet beside your own. Do you come here often? He asks after a while. You nod. Only when I feel like remembering something. What do you remember? Nothing specific, you say. Just the feeling of being small, in a good way. He doesn't answer right away. Then he says, the river does that, doesn't it? Makes you remember things you haven't lived. You glance at him. Yes, that's it exactly. It becomes a ritual. Not every day, not even most days. But now and then, when the light feels soft and the city's edges seem to blur, you find each other at the embankment. You don't make plans. There's never a meeting time. But somehow, you both know when to go. You talk more naugently, cautiously, as though trying not to scare away something fragile. You learn his name, Thomas. He says it shyly, like he's used to being known only by the sound of his music. You tell him yours, and he repeats it under his breath once, like a line from a verse he's trying not to forget. You speak of small things, music and lace, the way steam rises from manholes in winter, the rhythm of rain on attic windows. He never asks about your family. You never ask about his. Some stories don't need to be told aloud to be understood. Once, he brings you a folded paper with ink smudged at the edges. What is it? You ask. A waltz, he says. I wrote it after that night you laughed. I didn't want to forget the sound. You unfold the page and see the notes scattered across the staves, looping and tumbling over themselves like a story being told in a language only you and he understand. I don't know how to read this, you admit softly. That's all right, he says. You already danced it. On another afternoon, you both linger in front of a flower stall near Covent Garden. He doesn't buy anything, neither do you, but you stand together and look. Hyacinths, lavender, pale yellow roses. You don't say which is your favorite, and he doesn't ask. But the next evening, tucked into the railing beside your attic door, you find a tiny bouquet wrapped in parchment. 3 sprigs of lavender, 1 yellow rose, tied with a ribbon no longer than your little finger. You don't knock on his door to say thank you. You leave a square of hand-sewn lace outside his in return. A trade, a language, something blooming where no words are needed. Sometimes, you walk together in the golden hours before dusk, when the sky stretches soft across the rooftops and the bells begin their chiming, echoing over chimney pots and bakery signs. You don't hold hands. He never reaches for you, but he walks near enough that your arms brush now and then in a rhythm all their own. You feel something growing. Slowly, sweetly. It isn't loud. It doesn't clamor or declare. It simply is. Like water rising. Like breath deepening. Like music waiting to begin. One evening, just as the sky turns from plum to ash, he pauses near the edge of the river. You stop beside him. He says nothing for a long time. His hands are clasped behind his back, his eyes distant. I used to think I would leave London, he says finally. Find somewhere smaller, quieter, somewhere with room to start again. You glance at him. And now? He shrugs. Now. I wonder if the quiet I was looking for wasn't out there, but here, with you. The words hang in the air, soft and trembling. You say nothing, but your silence answers him. He turns to you, slowly, as if afraid to ruin the moment by moving too quickly. Do you ever wish things were different? He asks. That you were someone else? You consider the question. Let it unfold in your mind. Yes, you whisper. But only for a little while, and only because I didn't know someone like you would find me as I am. He breathes in sharply, as though the words had struck something inside him. Neither of you speak again. The river speaks for you. That night, in your attic, you dance again. The mirror shows you what you already feel. You are no longer a woman waiting. You are a woman becoming someone seen. Becoming someone chosen, gently, in silence, by a man who plays music in alleys and listens as though your voice lives in the soles of your feet. Some things are said best with the eyes. The two of you learn this quickly. You don't meet at balls. You don't write letters tied with ribbon or leave notes under pillows. You see each other in passing on your way to the bakery, on the street that smells faintly of coal smoke and oranges, in the reflection of polished shop windows that bend your shapes into something tender and strange. And each time your eyes meet, only for a moment, but always long enough to feel it, that low, steady flutter, the secret conversation that lives entirely in silence. You notice the way he tilts his head when he sees you, as if adjusting to the light. You notice that he always seems to find you on the same side of the street, as if he's chosen a rhythm that brings him closer without making it obvious. You begin to turn slightly when you pass a mirror, just to catch the way you look walking beside him. You begin to dress just a little differently. Nothing anyone else would notice, but you feel it in the hem of your skirt, the line of your collarbone, the careful way you choose which ribbon to wear in your hair, not to impress him, but because you know he sees you. And when someone truly sees you, you want to be the most honest version of yourself. One Sunday, the shop closes early, and the light has that washed golden hue that makes the streets look like a painting. You walk alone down the long stretch of Marlborough Street, just past the violin shop. You expect nothing, you expect everything, and there he is. Leaning in the doorway of a print shop, arms crossed, sleeves rolled up. He sees you before you see him, but he doesn't move, he doesn't wave. He just watches you approach. And when you pass, you meet his gaze. Something opens in the air between you. You don't speak, you don't stop, but you smile, so slightly it barely touches your lips. And he smiles back, as if the two of you are agreeing on something no one else knows. After that, the glances become something more. They become visits, not formal ones, not the kind where anyone knocks or announces themselves, but you begin to pass each other more often near your homes, the corner by the apothecary, the alley behind the music shop, the doorway near the steps where the old tabby cat always sleeps. And each time there is a moment, a glance, a pause, longer than necessary, never long enough. You start to leave your window open, even when it's cold, even when the candle sputters. You don't say it aloud, but it becomes a way of saying, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm waiting. Sometimes he plays, sometimes he doesn't. But you begin to hear other things too. You hear the way your breath changes when you hear his footsteps below, the way your heart stumbles when he hums a tune under his breath, loud enough to carry. You begin to memorize the sound of his walk, the pacing of his shoes on wet stone, the soft creak of the wooden step he always catches on. You know him in pieces, and every piece feels like part of a song you've always known. One afternoon, as you pass a storefront window, a tall mirror set behind velvet hats, you see your reflection beside his. You're not walking together, but there you are, aligned, parallel, moving in rhythm. And for a breathless second, it feels like a dance. You begin to practice with that image in mind. At night, when the room is quiet and the mirror glows with the flickering candle, you stand not as one, but as two. You move your arms as if someone's hand is already there. You spin and pause, your gaze always drawn to the space where he might be. You learn to dance with absence and still feel full. You wonder if he does the same. If, when he plays alone in his room, he imagines you twirling, listening, existing. Then comes a moment you did not expect. One morning, as you're bringing fabric samples to a client on Brook Street, you see him on the opposite side. He's not alone, he's with a friend, perhaps, or a customer. Someone older, with a satchel and a stern expression. He's laughing. It's a sound you've never heard before, lighter than his playing, brighter than his glances, and it stops you, not because it hurts, not because it surprises, but because you suddenly feel how much of him you haven't yet heard. He looks across the street, sees you, and stops laughing. His eyes soften, his head tilts slightly, and he nods, one small, sure nod, as if to say, "You're still real, you're still here." You nod back and continue walking. That night he doesn't play, but you don't dance either. You sit at your mirror and look at your reflection. You feel the quiet ache of something unsaid pressing into your chest. Not sadness, not quite, just the space between notes. The next evening, there's a knock at your door. Not the back door, your attic door. You freeze. No one ever comes here. You cross the room slowly, press your hand to the frame, open it gently. He stands there holding a bundle wrapped in linen. "I know you never asked," he says quietly, "but I wanted you to have this." He places the bundle in your hands. You unfold it. Inside is sheet music. Not printed, handwritten, pages and pages of it. "I wrote it for you," he says. Or rather, I wrote it because of you, the way you move, the way you don't speak, the way you stand just far enough away that I can never be sure if I meant to follow or simply listen. You don't know what to say, so you do what you always do. You step back, set the bundle down, and say, "Play." And he does. Right there, in the narrow attic doorway, he lifts his violin and begins. And you barefoot, steady dance, not in the center of the room, but near the edges. Near him, you let your hands move toward his music. You let your breath echo his rhythm. And when you pass by the mirror, you glance sideways and see the two of you together, still. At last, the invitation arrives by accident. It's a thick cream envelope edged with gold foil, the kind that only ever finds its way into the hands of people who dine by candlelight every night and never worry about coal deliveries. You find it tucked into a bolt of damask at the shop no name on the front, only the address, your shop's address, written in elegant script. You nearly toss it aside, assuming it was meant for the shop owner's daughter, but something about it makes you pause. You slip a finger under the seal, peel it open. Inside, an invitation to a spring charity ball at Westbourne Assembly Hall, the same grand hall you pass every evening, where lights twirl behind tall windows and shadows waltz like ghosts. The name on the card isn't yours. It's meant for Clara Withers, the daughter of a client you sew gowns for, a girl with perfect posture and a voice like polished glass. The envelope must have been tucked into your bundle by mistake. Still, you hold the card in your hand for longer than you should. It's heavy, real, something you've imagined maybe, but never touched. You slip it into your coat pocket without thinking. Not to use, not to keep, just because. That evening you don't mean to tell Thomas, but when you meet by the river, his eyes find yours faster than usual, and he says, "Something's on your mind." You smile, shrug. "Nothing much." He raises an eyebrow, amused. "If I played a song in the shape of a secret, would you dance it?" You look at him, startled by the poetry. Then, from your pocket, you produce the invitation, hold it out like a question you're not brave enough to ask. He reads it, brows lifted slightly, then hands it back. "I've played there," he says, "for those kinds of evenings." You nod. "I pass it every night. I watch them dance." "And wish you were inside?" "No," you say honestly. "I just wonder what it would be like to be seen there, in a place that was never made for someone like me." Thomas studies you a moment longer. Then he smiles gently, slowly, like someone choosing to unravel a ribbon. "Then let's go," he says. You blink. "Go?" "Not as guests, as ghosts. as shadows who sneak in and borrow a moment. Your heart kicks once, hard. You want to crash a ball? He grins. Not crash, visit, just long enough to borrow the music. The plan is ridiculous. You know it is. But the next night, after closing hours, you find yourself dressing with trembling fingers. Not in anything grand, there's no time, no fabric left in the shop, no pretense. But you choose a gown you once made for display. Simple, pale gray blue, too plain for a true debutante, but graceful. You alter it in secret during lunch. Let the bodice shape to your waist. Let the hem skim your ankle instead of dragging. You do your hair differently. Not up, not down, just gentle, soft, yours. And when you meet Thomas on the corner, he doesn't speak. He just stares for a long moment, his eyes moving over you like a bow over strings. You look like something from a memory, he murmurs. You lower your gaze. That may be the kindest thing anyone's ever said to me. He carries his violin tonight, wrapped, hidden, but still present, a promise. You wait until the ball is in full swing. Then you slip in through a service door Thomas remembers from his days playing there. No one sees you. No one stops you. You become part of the shadows, part of the movement of gowns and glasses and distant laughter. Upstairs, near the gallery, is a narrow hallway overlooking the ballroom below. You stand in the doorway, hearts pounding, breath shallow, watching the glittering crowd. It's beautiful, in that polished, untouchable way. Silks rustle, champagne glistens, music pours from a quartet near the stage, lovely but impersonal. People move in practiced circles, all rhythm, no meaning. You feel no envy, only a strange, sweet ache. Thomas unwraps his violin, checks the strings, his hands are steady. Here, you ask, voice barely audible. He nods. Here. And then, in the quiet of a forgotten corner, where the candlelight is low and the footsteps never quite reach, he plays. Not loudly, not to interrupt, just enough to create a world within the world. A different song, yours. You close your eyes, take a single step forward, let the music guide you. Your slippers slide against the stone. Your skirt lifts just slightly. You dance without pretense, without pose. You are not performing. You are remembering who you were before the world told you where you belonged. And for these few minutes, that memory becomes reality. You are not a seamstress. You are not invisible. You are the lady who dances in candlelight. For herself, for him. And as he watches you, eyes never leaving yours, he plays like he's catching a story as it falls. Someone walks past the far end of the hallway. You freeze. The spell almost breaks. But Thomas keeps playing, and you, steady, brave, keep moving. Whoever it was doesn't stop. The hallway stays yours. Afterward, you both slip back into the street, the door clicking shut behind you like the last page of a book. Neither of you speak. You walk together in silence, the night wrapping itself around your shoulders like a second skin. At your door, he pauses. Thank you, you whisper. For what? For letting me be seen. His reply is so soft, you almost miss it. I see you even when you're not trying. And for a moment, the world holds its breath, just long enough to let you believe. This story isn't nearly over. You don't sleep that night, not because you're restless though you are, but because something in you is still humming. A residue of the evening lingers on your skin, like candle wax on fingertips or perfume clinging to the collar of a coat. You lie beneath your quilt with your hands clasped loosely on your chest, eyes open to the ceiling, and feel awake. Not alert, not worried, just vividly aware that you are alive. It's a quiet kind of joy, not giddy, not grand, just steady, a flame that won't go out. You rise with the first light of dawn and touch the hem of the gown you left hanging on the chair. It still holds the faint scent of the assembly hall of polish and perfume and something older, like velvet crushed under too many steps. You fold it gently, not like a costume, but like something sacred, something earned. When you catch sight of yourself in the mirror, you pause. There's something different in your face. Not beauty, no, that's not the word. It's still you. Still the same slope of cheek, the same tired softness around your eyes, but there's a lift to your chin now. A new way you inhabit your own shape. You look like a woman who has been waltzed with, even if no one else in the world would believe it. You don't speak of the evening with Thomas the next day. It's as if you've agreed, silently, to hold it in a space outside of time. It's not a memory to be dissected or diluted with words. It simply was. And because it was, everything else now carries the shape of it like water, remembering the container it once filled. Instead, you see him on the walk home. He offers no music, no jokes, just a glance, a smile, a quiet falling into step beside you. The silence is full of meaning. It's enough. Over the next few days, everything ordinary feels just slightly shifted. The shop smells the same thread and starch and chalk, but your fingers feel lighter on the fabric, the pins bite less, the hours pass more gently. Even Clara Withers, whose gowns you mend weekly and who never once looks you in the eye, seems a little less distant. She walks in, rustling an organza, and says something kind about the stitching. Not to you about you, to her mother, but still, it lands somewhere tender inside you. Because you are different now. You are not simply the woman behind the needle. You are the woman who danced in the gallery shadows. A week passes, and you don't return to Westbourne. Not because you've forgotten, but because the magic of that night remains intact, and you both know better than to ask it for more than it was willing to give. Instead, you begin to steal your own waltzes. In your attic, yes, as always, but also in the long hallway near the museum where your footsteps echo like applause, in the little alcove of the park behind the gate with the locked arch where vines tangle around stone benches and sunlight drowns the noise of the city, and one afternoon, in the music shop itself. It's a quiet Thursday, the kind where the clouds sit heavy and the air smells of wet paper. You wander in after work, not to visit Thomas, but to look. He's in the back. You hear him, humming softly as he adjusts the pegs on a cello. You let the sound lead you. He sees you before you speak. Thought I'd lost you to silk and lace, he teases. You smile. Just needed somewhere quiet. He nods toward the open floor. There's quiet here. Take as much as you need. You don't need asking twice. You step into the open space between the counters, where the polished floor reflects the low light from the front windows. No music plays, but you hear it all the same. And you begin. No audience, no preparation, just your body, remembering what it's like to exist purely for itself. After a moment, you hear the soft creak of a bow, and then the violin joins you. Thomas doesn't ask, doesn't warn. He simply follows. You dance, he plays, and the world outside fades. Later, he tells you something you weren't expecting. I used to think I'd teach, he says, open a school, pass it on, but I never found anyone who made it feel right. You tilt your head, and now? He shrugs. Now I think I'd rather just play for someone who listens. You don't say anything, but your hand reaches out, just briefly, just enough to touch his sleeve, and you smile, because you know you are the reason he says that, and he knows it too. The next time you pass the assembly hall, the doors are wide open, not for a ball, for cleaning. A woman in apron and boots is sweeping the steps. Another carries out candle stubs in a chipped porcelain bowl. No music, no gowns, just the bones of the place, bare and exposed. And still, it stops you. Thomas is beside you. He sees it too. "This is where you danced," he says softly. You nod. "It's not the same now," you admit. "No," he agrees, "but maybe it never was about the place." You look at him, he looks at you, and the world narrows to a single breath. That evening, he brings something to your attic. Not music, not flowers, a pair of gloves, soft, ivory, hand-sewn, from a shop across the river, he says. Not expensive, but I thought of your hands. You press them to your cheek. They smell of paper and wood. "I didn't get you anything," you say quietly. He smiles. "You did. That night in the hallway, you gave me everything." You don't kiss, but the air between you begins to feel like it might allow such a thing. Soon, maybe not now, but soon, the first snow comes without warning. One morning, you wake to the sound of silence, true silence, the kind that blankets the city and dulls its edges. You open your attic window and breathe in the scent of it. Coal smoke muted by cold, air sharp with stillness, the world holding its breath under a soft white veil. You press your hands to the sill. The snow is already several inches deep on the rooftops and stair rails. Children laugh distantly on the street below, their boots crunching through the slush. A cart rolls past, its wheels muffled. Everything is slower, softer. It should feel magical, but instead it feels empty, because he's not there. For the first time in weeks, no music, no passing glimpse, no knock on your door or folded note left in the stairwell. You waited last night, and the night before, your candle burned low. You danced a little, just in case, but the room stayed quiet, and your steps fell into silence. You told yourself not to worry. You still tell yourself that. But today, as the snow drifts gather on your windowsill and your breath clouds the glass, the quiet begins to sound like absence, not peace, not pause. Absence. And it aches. At the shop, the world goes on. Fabric bolts are heavier with the damp, the deliveries run late, customers complain of cold fingers and ruined shoes, but the dresses must still be sewn, and so you sew them. You prick your thumb once, hard enough to draw blood. You don't flinch. Clara Withers sends a note requesting adjustments to her winter ball gown. You work on it in silence, stitching pale blue satin under yellow lamplight, your thoughts drifting. You don't ask anyone if they've seen him. You don't pass the music shop. You pretend not to care. But at night, your feet drift to the window all the same. It's a week before you hear from him. A knock at the door faint, uncertain. You open it with your heart already rushing, only to find a different kind of silence waiting. A parcel, no note, just a package wrapped in paper, tied with twine, resting on the doorstep like a whisper. You carry it inside with shaking hands. Inside, a journal, old, soft leather, worn at the corners, filled with pages of music, handwritten. Your name is scrawled inside the front cover. No flourish, no date, just for her. You don't see him the next day, or the one after, but the music in your hands is enough to keep the ache from becoming despair. You read the pages slowly, like letters. The notes seem to carry meaning beyond their sound. You don't know how to read them properly, not in the way musicians do, but you understand them. You feel them. Each curve and dot, each breath between bars, feels like a word meant only for you. One page is marked with a crease, the ink slightly smudged. At the bottom, in small script, "I miss your footsteps overhead." You press your fingers to the page, then your lips, and you begin to dance again. On the third day, snow begins to fall again. You step outside after work, your shawl pulled tight around your shoulders, and the flakes swirl around you like lace dropped from the sky. You don't rush home, you walk slowly, purposefully. And then, for the first time in days, you turn toward the music shop. It's closed. Lights out. A sign in the window. Closed for family matters, reopening soon. You press your palm to the cold glass. The music inside you falters. That night, you light 2 candles. You open the journal, and you play the melody in your mind. You move slowly, deliberately. Every step becomes a message, every turn a question. Are you well? Do you miss me? Will you come back? You dance not just for yourself now. You dance because he cannot. Because somewhere, something is keeping him from the place he made with you. And if you stop dancing, the place might vanish. It's 10 days before you see him again. You don't expect it. You don't even hope for it anymore. You're walking home, arms full of cloth and your cheeks stung red from the cold, when he steps into your path from the alley just past the apothecary. He looks different, tired, pale, as though he's been somewhere heavy with grief. But his eyes still find you like a compass to true north. Hello, he says softly. You don't respond, you drop your bundle, step forward. You press your hands to his coat, and then your head to his chest, and stand there, silent, until you both begin to breathe again. I had to go home, he says, once you're inside, once your coat is off and your kettle is hissing softly on the stove. My father, he says, it was sudden. You nod. You don't ask for more. I thought of writing, he adds, but nothing I said felt right, so I sent the music instead. You reach for the journal, still sitting open beside your mirror. I read every word you say. He smiles, faint but real. I know. You hand him the journal. I danced every page. And then, finally he steps close, presses his lips to your forehead, and you let your eyes close. Because you know now, he came back. There is a moment, just one, when you almost stop waiting. It comes on a Tuesday, a plain day, the kind that doesn't carry any particular sorrow, no ominous sky or broken thing to mark it. It's just gray, just ordinary, just long. The shop is quiet, too quiet. No orders come in, no customers arrive. The fire is slow to catch. You sit at your stool with your hands still and your needle idle, staring at a row of buttons that do not need to be sewn. You listen to the wind whistle faintly through the eaves and the creak of the floor above, and you feel something in you go still. You don't cry. You don't sigh. You just stop. For the first time in months, your body does not hum with possibility. For the first time, your heart does not reach. Your fingers do not ache for the dance. The light from the window feels dimmer, colder, and for a moment you begin to think. Perhaps it was only ever a dream, a beautiful one, but brief, fickle, like snow that melted too soon. You go home early. The streets are muddy. There's no fresh snow today, only slush and gray water soaking into the edges of your hem. Your coat feels heavier than usual. Your gloves are damp. The world seems determined to remind you that it is solid, that it is real, and that dreams do not belong in it. Your attic is colder than you expect when you arrive. You light the stove. You set your journal aside. You don't touch the music. You don't look at your mirror. You sit, and you wait for nothing, because nothing, today, feels like all that's left. Then, just after dusk, there is a sound. Not a knock, a scrape, the faintest drag of wood against stone barely audible, like the world shifting its weight. You don't move. You listen. It comes again. Then a soft bump, a knock this time, hesitant, familiar. You rise slowly, and when you open the door, he's there, soaked to the skin, coat dripping, hair flattened against his brow. His eyes are wide and bright and searching. I thought you might not open, he says, his voice rough from the cold. You step back without a word. He steps inside. You close the door. and neither of you says anything else for a long time. When he finally speaks, it is in a whisper. "I've been playing," he says, "even when I couldn't see you, even when the shop was shut and the house was loud and my hands were sore." You say nothing. "I thought if I played enough, maybe you'd still hear me, maybe you'd still be dancing." Your voice, when it comes, is barely a thread. "I stopped." He blinks. "Today," you add. "Just for today, I stopped." His shoulders drop, not in disappointment, but in understanding. Then he reaches for your hand. Cold fingers, soft touch. "I'm here now," he says. "I don't know what to do with that," you admit. He smiles slow and aching. "Then let's not do anything, let's just sit." So you do. You sit side by side on the floor, backs against the wall, knees almost touching. The stove flickers. The room is silent, except for the hiss of the kettle and the faint tick of your clock. He doesn't speak again. He doesn't play. He just stays. And for the first time, that is the music. Later, when the water boils, he makes tea. You wrap your hands around the mug, fingers numb with something more than cold. He watches you carefully. Then, almost shyly, he says, "May I see your ribbon?" You blink. He gestures to your hair, the one you always wear when you dance. You reach up, untie it, place it in his outstretched hand. He studies it a moment, then tucks it into his pocket, close to his heart. "I'll bring it back when the next song is ready," he says. You smile tired, grateful, warmed from the inside out. He doesn't stay the night. But when he leaves, you don't feel abandoned. You feel full, not with certainty, but with the knowledge that even on the days when you nearly give up, something quiet and steady might still be reaching back. You wake before the sun the next day, not out of habit, out of hope, and for the first time in days you light a single candle, step to the center of your room and bow to the silence, not because you expect to be seen, but because something in you remembers what it felt like to believe. You place your feet just so, and you begin to move, and somewhere, in the city not so far away, a violin string stirs and answers. It begins in the stillness of morning, not a whisper of wind, no snow, no sleet, not even the crackle of ice in the eaves, just soft winter sunlight streaming in through your attic window, the kind of light that has to pass through smoke and time and lace curtains before it ever touches your skin. You stretch your fingers across the quilt. You expect to find the cool imprint of loneliness, but instead, there's warmth in the shape of your own contentment. The space beside you is empty, but your chest doesn't ache. Not today. Today, your heart is full of small, quiet things. The shape of his smile, the sound of tea being poured, the weight of your ribbon in his pocket. You rise without hurry. Let the world wake around you. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you don't reach for your slippers first. You reach for the window and open it. There's something strange about walking through the city in full daylight with him. He's always been a creature of shadow, not secretive, just soft-edged, candlelit. He slips through the world like a note you almost heard. But today, he walks beside you with his coat open, scarf loose at the neck, curls tousled by the breeze. You carry the music journal between you, his hand lightly on the binding, yours on the other edge. It isn't snowing, but the light feels like it remembers snow. And somehow, that's better. You pass people vendors, carriages, a mother with a primand. None of them look twice, not at you, not at him, not at the space between you where something beautiful hums quietly into being. No one stares. No one intrudes. In a city of noise, the world finally lets you have your silence. He leads you to a place you've never been, a glass house. It stands at the edge of the city, tucked behind a line of townhomes and obscured by an overgrown hedge. From the outside, It looks forgotten, dusty panes, wrought iron curling with rust. But the moment you step inside, the light wraps itself around you like silk. It's warm, not summer warm, not fire warm, but still warm. Inside, green things stretch lazily toward the sun. Vines climb along beams. A fern rests in the crook of an old bench. Everything smells of damp soil and citrus. And when the door closes behind you, the city vanishes like it never existed. This place, he says quietly, used to belong to a friend of my mother's. I used to sneak in when I needed somewhere to play. You glance at him. You brought your violin here? He nods. The acoustics are terrible, but the light is perfect. You find a space near the center, where the glass curves overhead and the light falls in long golden lines. You set the journal down, open to a page neither of you has played before. You don't speak. You don't ask. He lifts his violin and begins. It's a different song, brighter, slower, almost hesitant, like a hand offered palm up in a quiet room. You step toward it, not into performance, into presence. There are no mirrors here, no shadows, only light, only you and the way your body remembers itself, the way your arms know how to rise, the way your feet move without demand. You've danced in the dark. You've danced alone, but this is the first time you dance fully seen, and he watches not like someone who's asking anything of you, but like someone who wants to remember this forever. Afterward, he doesn't say anything for a long time, just sets down his violin and sits on the floor beside your journal. You sit too. Let your head rest against his shoulder. He leans in gently and says, "You look like sunlight, moving." You feel something stir in your chest, something slow and terrifying and beautiful. "Do you think," you whisper, "we could do this again?" He takes your hand, presses it to his chest. "Every day," he says, and means it. You return to the glass house often, not every day, not always together, but often enough that your footsteps begin to leave memory in the floorboards. Your breath fogs the panes in familiar patterns, and the light that once felt borrowed begins to feel like it belongs to you. You sweep the corners with a stiff old broom. He oils the door hinges. You leave behind gloves and scarves, and once, accidentally, a ribbon that catches on a rose thorn and stays there, fluttering like a secret. It is not your home, but it becomes a place that holds your joy without question. One morning, he brings a new piece of music. You don't see it at first. He places the journal down while you warm your fingers by the stove. But when you do notice, something about it catches your breath. It's shorter than the others. Only one page. No title. No notes in the margin. Just music. You lift your eyes to his. He doesn't speak, just nods, and you know before a single note plays what it means. This is the last song, not the last song he will ever write, not the last dance you will ever have, but the last one in this story, in this chapter, in this season of shadows and silence and hidden music played in glass houses and attics. The world has begun to call you both back. His shop is busier, yours too. Orders are coming in. Clients are asking for fittings. A friend of his is starting a small orchestra. A customer of yours wants to hire you as a permanent seamstress. These are good things, necessary things. But it means that what you've had, this small, suspended world, must shift. Not disappear, just shift. You place the journal gently on the floor. You stand, and you bow, not to him, to the space, to the light, to every version of yourself you have met along the way. You hear the first note, and you move. This time, you don't imagine anything. You don't dream. You simply are. Your hands do not flutter. They stretch. They gather. Your feet do not hesitate, they ground. Your breath becomes the rhythm, and in his eyes dark and still and full you see it reflected back. The girl who danced alone, the woman who dances now. When the final note ends, the silence does not feel empty. It feels complete. He lowers the violin. You lower your arms. You do not move toward each other. You do not need to. He sets the violin down, crosses to you, and takes your hand. He opens the journal to the blank last page. Your turn, he says. You blink. But I don't compose. You already have. You look down at the page. Then, slowly, you lift the pencil and write. Not music, not steps, just words. I was never alone. The sun has fully risen now. You step out into it together, not with urgency, not with fear, just two people walking side by side, hands brushing now and then, hearts steady, and you know whether you dance again tonight or next week, or not for some time at all, this love will not fade, because it was never made of spectacle. It was made of moments, of presence, of patience, and of quiet rooms where music was made, not to impress but to connect. As the city wakes around you, you find yourself smiling for no reason, and for every reason, because this is the ending, and the beginning, all at once. And finally, you do not need the mirror to know that you are not the same woman who once danced in the shadows. You have become someone new, someone seen, and someone loved.